Hey, how's it going? Ben here. Great to see you again. Thanks for tuning in. So last week I made a video reminiscing on my time spent in Thailand. I made a video titled I moved to Thailand 5 years ago today. I quit my job and moved out to Thailand, and I spoke about that and that experience and how it changed me and all those kind of things. I'll leave a link in the description to that video if you want to check it out. But yeah, in this video I kind of wanted to follow that up, and this video is about the reasons why I stayed. So like I said, I kind of mentioned the reasons why I decided to leave the UK, why I decided to go and look for a new adventure in a different country. And this video is going to be about why, after 5 years, I'm still here. So initially I moved to Thailand and I planned to stay here for 6 months only. That was mainly because I had been offered a contract from my school and they offered me a 6-month contract. I had booked flights to Thailand, and then I had also booked a flight to either Singapore or Malaysia. I forget which country it actually was, but I had a flight that was leaving the Kingdom of Thailand. I was advised by the agency, who had provided me with contacts for work, that I needed an outgoing flight when dealing with immigration. Sometimes they like to see that you do actually have plans to travel onward after the time spent in the kingdom. So yeah, everything was set. I had planes booked to leave after 6 months. I only envisioned myself doing it for 6 months and being here for 6 months. I went to work for 6 months. Then I went to go and travel around Southeast Asia. But 5 years later, I'm still here. I never did take that flight to Singapore or Malaysia. I ended up having to leave it. I lost some money on that flight, actually. There isn't one reason. There's kind of a few different things that influenced me and made me decide to stay. But initially, one of the biggest things actually was that I already had plans to travel in India with friends. I already had a holiday booked. And also at the end of that 6-month contract, I was offered a contract for the following school year. So I was offered a 1-year contract following my 6-month completion of my initial 6-month contract. The reason why this trip made me decide to stay on and continue working was because if I had gone back home, I would have had to have found work. And obviously that wasn't guaranteed. However, I'd been offered a contract here. I was reasonably happy here. Also, the holiday landed in the half term here in Thailand, so I would be able to take that time as holiday. There were no problems with that. So I thought maybe the best situation was to stay on. Like I said, I was happy. I already had a holiday booked. Luckily, that holiday landed in a half term, and I didn't fancy going home without any sort of job security, considering I had plans to travel. That was the main reason I initially decided to stay on for another year. That's the initial reason why I stayed on for longer than those 6 months, but that doesn't really explain the full story of why I'm still here 5 years later. There's a whole bunch of different things that inclined me to stay in Thailand. One of the most obvious and easy things to mention would be the weather. You know, I come from northern England. Winters are actually pretty painful and uncomfortable in the UK in winter time. Not as bad as some places I know, but I really like the warm climate here. I really like being able to sit outside like I am right now in t-shirt and shorts and feel pretty comfortable. I really like running and I enjoy a lot of outdoor activities. Once again, I did those in the UK, but it's much more comfortable here in Thailand being outside, and I prefer the warmer weather. Some nights I do get a little bit too hot and it's hard to sleep in the heat, but on the whole I really like the warmer climate. So that is another big reason why I stayed in Thailand. Another reason why I stayed in Thailand and why I continue to stay in Thailand, and one of the things that I really enjoy about living in Thailand and may influence my decision to stay here longer, is the food. Obviously, Thai food is renowned around the world. I'm sure you've had Thai food. I'm sure there's a Thai food restaurant in the city where you live. But it's not just the cuisine, it's not just the actual dishes themselves, but actually eating in general. I find it much more healthy here. And obviously everyone's different, but for me that seems to be a much healthier diet. I really like that there's barbecue everywhere, like on the side of the road. You can stop and get barbecue or fried chicken or barbecued squid. You know, if you want a snack, typically here, I would pull in on the side of the road, get some, some barbecue, and that's, again, paradigm shifting coming from the UK, where snacks typically would be like a bag of chips, crisps. You know, you don't really get people stood on the roadside selling cooked meats. I feel much healthier and I really enjoy the food here, so that's another massive reason why I stay and continue to live in Thailand. There's something to be said about the lifestyle as well. I really like, I don't know, it's not necessarily relaxed. I know if you come here on holiday and you stay in the tourist destinations, then it does feel really relaxed, really slow. That's not really true once you leave those tourist areas. However, it is somewhat more relaxed, I think, even though it is a little bit more ramped up than those tourist areas, it is still kind of relaxed. Maybe the climate plays into that a lot, but I feel very safe here. there are very, very low crime rates. There's plenty of problems. However, sort of physical crime and, like break-ins, that kind of stuff, theft, that's pretty much non-existent here. People leave their motorcycles out the front of their houses with their keys in the motorcycle. People leave their cars with the keys in. People leave their iPhones, their brand new iPhones, on tables in bars and restaurants. It's very, very unsettling at first, especially when you come from a country where you have to be more careful about those things. So yeah, I like that aspect of the lifestyle, the security and safety, I feel. Again, like, it's a very sporty country, lots of activities. I've played for numerous football clubs. There's running tracks that are open very late, and they're very safe once again because that kind of crime is very low here. So I really like being able to go out, in the night, go for a run, go for a game of football, and not really have to worry about anything, any problems that I might have to worry about in the UK, for example. So yeah, that kind of the lifestyle I really love, and is definitely a massive reason why I continue to stay here in Thailand. There's something more to it than just the lifestyle as well. I get a great sense of freedom here in Thailand. I don't know what it is precisely. I find it a little bit difficult to explain, but I do feel somewhat freer. I think some Western countries are potentially becoming a bit of a nanny state. Maybe you disagree with me there or agree or whatever, but I do feel like there's a greater sense of freedom for me personally here in Thailand. There's a lot more risk here as well, but there's a lot more like you're free to make your own mistakes in that kind of respect. You'll see lots of people behaving quite recklessly from a Western point of view, maybe driving a motorcycle, no helmet, very quick. And there's something, I don't do that. I don't engage in that. I'd like to stress that. I always wear a helmet, don't drive fast. However, I like the fact that you can. I like the fact that there's not really, and it's not technically legal, but there is a sense of freedom. I don't know how to explain it. There is like this sense of you do what you want and you live with the consequences of those decisions. So you're free to make those bad decisions. I feel like if you did something too similar like that in the UK, you'd probably end up in prison. You're not really free. There's a much higher amount of government sort of reach and control in Western countries. I find there's a ton of CCTV everywhere in England. You feel like you're being watched all the time. So yeah, I actually do find myself feeling somewhat freer out here. Although I know that sounds kind of bad. It wasn't a great example I gave, but I'm just being honest with you. That's kind of how I see it. I do feel free. I feel free to make my own mistakes, and in a sense, and I actually, even though I don't, behave that recklessly, I kind of like the fact that some people do. It's sort of like, maybe it sort of speaks to that kind of rebellious spirit that perhaps I have a inch of. Finally, one of the great things about Thailand that I probably don't need to tell you about is the lower cost of living. I know this is a very common thing that attracts a lot of people, especially on holiday. Your pounds or your dollars go a lot further in Southeast Asia. I really like that my rent is very affordable. I make a lot less money in Thailand than I would working in the UK. However, my rent is very cheap. It's a fraction of my salary. When I was renting a house in the UK, it was a lot more. It took up the majority of my salary. That's not the case here. Food's relatively cheaper, especially eating in restaurants. It doesn't break the bank eating in restaurants. So you can go out a lot. You can go out and eat food a lot. You can go out to bars a lot. You can really live your life, and I really like that. If I was living in the UK, because I'm not like a very high earner, I would find it pretty difficult to eat out as often as I like, to go and drink as often as I like, to go traveling as often as I like. Whereas here, I feel like it's much more affordable, so that's a massive thing also. Those are the reasons why I stayed in Thailand, why I continue to live here in Thailand. If you do want to watch that video I mentioned at the beginning of this video, me sharing my experiences of quitting my job and moving to Thailand, then I will leave a link to it right here. So go and check that video out if that's something you're interested in doing.